Voters are rising up. From Buenos Aires to Berlin, angry citizens aren't just protesting, they're forcing their leaders from power. And this is just the beginning. A global rebellion is sweeping the planet. In country after country, voters are pissed off, and they're storming to the polls to throw their leaders out like never before. From Argentina to Italy, from the United States to South Korea, the pattern is clear. So why are voters so angry? There's one driving force behind this revolution. Governments have spent their citizens' money into oblivion. For years, governments had been spending more than ever before. Then COVID struck. Leaders everywhere panicked, unleashing a flood of money unlike anything in history. Stimulus checks, business bailouts, wage supports. They called it emergency aid, but the tidal wave of inflation it unleashed would change everything. When this wall of money hit, the world wasn't ready. Supply chains were still broken from COVID, so when millions of government checks arrived all at once, there was too much money chasing too few goods. The result? A price explosion that would ignite voter fury across the globe. Citizens may just be voting against inflation, but it was excess government spending that caused it. America's story shows exactly how this happened. In early 2020, despite lockdowns, prices held steady. Then came Joe Biden's $1,400 checks in 2021. By summer of the following year, prices were rising faster than they had in 40 years. When Kamala Harris tried blaming corporate greed, Americans saw through it. The voter rebellion had begun. The same story played out worldwide. Months after COVID spending programs began, the European Union watched helplessly as prices surged. Canada, Australia, the UK, everywhere that government spending went up, so did prices. Citizens watched in horror as their savings just melted away. In South Korea, young voters led the first successful revolt. Despite billions spent on housing programs, they couldn't afford homes. Despite massive jobs programs, they couldn't find work. Their response? They threw out the establishment, electing conservative Yoon Suk-yeol with a crystal clear message. Stop burning our money. Italy went next. Years of Brussels-backed spending had left the country drowning in debt. Then came EU-funded COVID programs, and inflation exploded. Italian voters didn't just reject their government, they rejected the entire European spending machine, electing Giorgia Meloni, their first female leader, on a promise to put Italy first. But Argentina shows us how bad things can get. After decades of left-wing Peronist governments promising endless handouts, their money became worthless. Prices doubled, then doubled again. Watching grocery costs surge daily, citizens made a radical choice. They elected Javier Milei, a political outsider who promised to take a chainsaw to government spending. The rebellion knows no partisan bounds. Australia's conservative government found out the truth the hard way. Their excess COVID spending program led to electoral defeat. Colombia's conservative government suffered the same fate. The message? No party is safe when they waste people's money. But what's happening right now may turn out to be even more explosive. Canada, long a picture of stability, is now in revolt. Justin Trudeau's progressive coalition is crumbling as years of lavish spending, including the massive Canada Emergency Benefit, come back to haunt him. As housing costs and grocery bills soar, Canadians are rallying behind conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and his promises of spending sanity. Brazil's nightmare is unfolding in real time. After years of government waste crowned by billions in COVID emergency aid, their currency is in free fall. A simple coffee now costs triple what it did last year. As their money turns into paper, protesters surround government buildings, and President Lula da Silva, once a hero to millions, faces a citizenry ready to revolt. Now he belatedly promises to curb spending. But perhaps the biggest earthquake is rumbling in Germany. Europe's economic powerhouse, the country that was supposed to be the continent's rock of stability, is cracking. Chancellor Scholz's coalition has shattered. Now Europe's largest economy faces emergency elections, while the far-right Alternative for Germany surges in the polls. Economic pain is driving voters to extremes. The pattern is undeniable. When governments waste their citizens' money, the citizens fight back. And they're not just demanding new faces, they want a complete overhaul of the system. Now politicians, especially on the right, are promising to end the spending spree and restore sound money. and voters, watching their savings evaporate, are rallying to their cause. But will the politicians actually listen? Donald Trump, for all his anti-establishment rhetoric, has shown no history of fiscal restraint. Congress, regardless of party, keeps pushing massive spending bills. The political courage to make real cuts seems nowhere to be found, except maybe in Argentina under Javier Milei. The question facing every nation is the same. Will their leaders finally get the message, or will voters need to speak even louder?